Good afternoon. Call the meeting to order. Welcome everyone to the June 11th meeting of the PPRTA Board of Directors. We do have a quorum. I don't believe we have any changes to the agenda. So could I get a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
Oh, no, go ahead.
Yeah, Mayor Dixon, I'll approve.
And I'll second.
Very good. We have a motion and a second to approve the agenda. All those in favor, aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. Number 3, public comment for items not on the agenda. Do we have anyone that would like to make public comment? I'm seeing no one in the audience and no one online. So we'll move on then to the approval of the minutes from the May 14th, 2025 meeting. You all have a copy of those in your packets. Any changes, corrections, comments? Okay, seeing none. We have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
I'll second John Gray.
Very good. A motion and a second. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Next would be the presentation of the 2024 fiscal year audit. Good afternoon.
There we go. Good afternoon. My name's Kyle Logan. I am the authority's independent auditor and here this afternoon to present the results of our audit of the authority's 2024 financial statements. And so we started our process about the last week of April, and part of that includes picking samples of disbursements, money that's paid out to contractors and vendors, and for a couple of reasons: to verify that internal controls and procedures that have been put in place are happening, and also to verify that money that's being paid has proper supporting documentation, proper approvals, and is being reported in your accounting records properly. We also send out confirmations to verify your cash and investment balances with financial institutions to make sure that what they say they're holding for the authority is what's actually being reported in the accounting records. We verify the tax revenues with the state and some of the transit revenues with the local jurisdictions. We also read your meeting minutes to see what actions have been taken by the board over the year to see if there's been any financial impact that we need to consider, agreements, contracts that have been entered into. And then we really concentrate on your assets and your liabilities to make sure that those numbers that are being reported are fairly stated as of the end of the year. We spend time comparing 2024 balances with 2023 and talking with Lisa and Rick as far as fluctuations, why there may have been changes. And so then after all that process is done, that gives me a level of comfort in order to issue an opinion on the financial statements. And so keep in mind the financial statements in your packet there, they're responsibility of the authority's management. My responsibility as your auditor is to audit them and issue an opinion. And so following the table of contents is the independent auditor's report. And for the year ended December 31st, 2024, the authority received an unmodified opinion. Well, what that means in layman's terms, that's a clean opinion. What that tells you as a board, that's the best that you can receive from an independent auditor. It also tells you that all the financial statements in this document, all the footnote disclosures in this document are fairly stated and materially correct as of December 31st, 2024. So again, that's the best. Following the independent auditor's report is the management's discussion and analysis. This is kind of a written narrative of certain highlights that have happened over the past year, comparing 2024 with 2023 balances. Again, this is required reporting by the accounting standards. And then following the MD&A, we get to page 1, which is your statement of net position or your balance sheet. This is like a snapshot picture at December 31st of all the authority's assets, all its the claims against its assets or liabilities, and its net position or net worth. And so for the year ended December 31st, 2024, your total assets were 339 million. That's actually a decrease of about 28 million over 2023. And I'll explain that in a minute here. Your cash and investments of 312 million make up 92%. And then the other 8% is your accounts receivable of 27 million, which is primarily the sales tax that is collected by vendors in November and December, remitted to the state, and then the authority receives it in January and February of the following year. Okay. And then your liabilities is the next section, 32 million. This is an increase over 23 of about 7.7 million. Again, this fluctuates from year to year, depending on where we're at with either planning, engineering projects, or actually in the construction phase. Okay. Your net position or net worth at the end of the year is 307 million. That's again a decrease of 35 million. And of your net position, it's in two primary categories, restricted and unrestricted. Majority of it, 305 million, is restricted, and that's in your priority capital projects, your roadway maintenance, transit services, and then the 3% Tabor Reserve. But your unrestricted is about 1.5 million, which that's something we look at every year just to see, how that fluctuates from year to year. Okay. And then following page 1, we have page 2, statement of activities, or your income statement. Again, it starts with your expenses and then follows with your revenues. 215 million in total expenses. That's an increase of about 71 million over last year. Capital improvements was all these projects are hitting the construction phase now. And so we're spending the money that has been collected in prior years. So that increased 76 million over 2023. Transportation increased about 1.6 million, just again, ongoing services and some increased costs there. Road maintenance actually decreased over prior year. And that's just the timing of projects by the member governments. Okay. Your general revenues, which is primarily your sales and use taxes, 79 million, which is pretty comparable to 2023. Sales and use taxes make up 156 million of that. Your transit revenue, about 3.5 million, a slight decrease over 23. It's always good to see your interest income or your investment income increasing, 18.4 million. So that increased about a little over 800,000 over last year. So as long as these rates stay in the 4 to 5% range, you're going to see that year to year. And then we had a small amount of cost sharing reimbursements of about 952,000. And this is where certain monies are received by the member governments that are given to the authority to offset some project cost. Okay. And then we see the change in net position or the change in your net worth. We had a decrease of 35.4 million, which again, as I mentioned, this is all tied to the construction projects. We went many years of planning and engineering, and now we're finally getting into the construction phases on several of these large projects. Okay. So then pages 3 and 4, these are the fund financial statements. Again, there's really no difference to pages 1 and 2, other than they're arranged a little different. Okay. And then following the financial statements, we get into the notes to the financial statements, pages 5 through 12. And so the accounting standards require certain either elements in the financial statements to be explained more in detail, or just required disclosures. And so there on the pages 5 through 9, the biggest portion of your footnotes are the summary of significant accounting policies. And again, so these are the policies that have been put in place by the authority governing board over the years. Okay. Pages 9 through 11, these are your cash and investments. You can see the majority of it is held in Colo Trust. And then pages 11 and 12 wrap up the required disclosure for the Tabor Amendment, the Pikes Peak Area Council of Governments administration of the RTA, and that agreement, and then just a litigation disclosure as well. And then the last 2 pages require supplementary information. This is your general fund budget comparison schedule. And so each year in December, when the board approves the next year's budget, one thing that state statute says is you can't spend more than you budgeted or you anticipated. And so that's something we look at when we're pulling together all the numbers to make sure that your expenditures, and they always have been well below what the budget is. Okay, so no issues there. The other thing I'll mention is that when we are, testing invoices, transactions, we are also looking at the ballot questions that have been approved to make sure that these capital projects, that the money that's being charged to these projects is actually what has been approved by the voters. So that's one thing to make sure that we don't have maintenance costs going into a project cost. So that'll be one reason. And I say this year after year, you guys have put good procedures in place and you have good staff that monitors it. I've never had any issues with, monies going to the wrong category or to the wrong bucket. So, that tells you as a board that things are being followed from an accounting perspective. Okay. Any questions on the financials before I talk about the management letter?
Any questions? Okay.
Okay. The other document is what I refer to as a management letter. And again, this is required by our auditing standards, and tells you what my responsibility is as your auditor. And it then also continues on the next page if, we had any changes with accounting estimates or changes in accounting policies, that would be noted here. If we made significant audit adjustments, I'll tell you, we made minor adjustments, but again, it wasn't anything significant that would raise concern from our standpoint. So what that tells you is that the numbers you see in this final audited document are the numbers you have seen throughout the year. Okay. If there were any issues or disagreements, during our audit, well, you would have heard from me before today, which that's always a good thing. So, and this is also a tool that we use as far as recommendations for either improvements or best practices, over when we've been performing our audit. And the fact that we don't have anything here, that's good. And, finally, I want to thank Lisa and Rick for their work. They have the hard part in this, as far as pulling all the documentation together for us. We really appreciate that because it helps us as far as having a good, sound financial audit. The one thing I will add is that this year we added a little bit of disclosure in your investment footnote, a policy that I think was adopted at the beginning, the very, very beginning, was specific to a few things. And so we added that in. And I had conversations with Lisa and Rick that you might want to revisit that and maybe tie it in more to because you are implicitly following state statute as far as your investing goes, but to perhaps say that in your policy document. But again, it's not a big concern from our standpoint, but I just thought I'd mention that since we did change that in the footnotes. So And again, thank you for having me to present this. I really appreciate it and appreciate the work Lisa and Rick did. So any questions?
Any questions for Kyle? Yes, Madam Attorney.
I actually have a question regarding the investment policy. Um, uh, Setting aside the PPRTA, most of the public entities that I work with don't have a formal investment
Right.
policy. Their policy, and as noted in their audits, is usually they follow state law. And so I was wondering, from an auditor standpoint, do you have a recommendation that public entities have a policy or just follow state law?
I don't, I mean, I never tell a client that they have to have an investment policy. It's usually that for some reason they adopt one. And then that's when I look at it and say, okay, does this follow state statute? Because you don't want a policy that's saying you're going to go invest in offshore or things on the other side of the world when actually state statute doesn't allow that. So I don't know if that answers your question, but you are so correct that I'd say probably 80 to 85% of my clients do not have an investment policy.
Yeah, and I
So-
was talking with Rick about this offline based on your comments. I don't consider what's called an investment policy to really be an investment policy, because what it says is a
Very broad.
subcommittee will bring recommendations to the board. It's not we'll, invest in offshore or anything like that.
Exactly.
I was just curious because it's, as I said, all the other
Yeah.
entities that I work with don't have any policy at all. And so I was just curious
Yeah.
from an auditor standpoint, how you felt about that.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay.
Other questions? Okay. So thank you, Kyle.
Thank you.
I believe we're supposed to accept the report, and so I imagine I'll need a motion to accept.
Mayor Dixon, I'll move we accept the auditor's report.
And is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you again. Appreciate you being here. All right, brings us then to the Citizens Advisory Committee report. Mr. Godfrey.
Good afternoon, Mr. President, members of the board, Jim Godfrey, Chair of the CAC. I'd like to go over the minutes of our meeting, or the outcome of our meeting last week. Turn my page. The city of Colorado Springs, well, first of all, we did approve a positive recommendation for the amendment to the budget. The budget amendment that's before you will be discussed today. We did review that and we recommend approval of the budget that we will see later. City of Colorado Springs specific 6 contracts to the CAC. No major questions. City had answers to any questions that we had on those. The city also brought forward a request to borrow 2.5 million from RTA 3 Capital Reserve. We had a fair amount of discussion about this. Primarily, what does that mean? How's the payback method, and that kind of thing. The money is needed. The money is needed down at Brookside Street off of Nevada. And if you're familiar with that intersection, it's offset as it comes into Nevada. One side is here and 100 yards or less or so. And so you have to kind of zigzag across Nevada Avenue there. And they would like to realign that to make that a straight shot across that intersection. But the developer is looking to buy out some property down there. And so the city was trying to get ahead of that, and it makes sense to do that. And so after discussion, we recommend that you approve the request as the city is asking. El Paso County brought a couple of contracts, and we have no question or problems with those and recommend they be approved as well. And that's actually the CAC report. Then I got one more thing after we do that. So any questions on the CAC report? Not seeing any online. Okay. I would like to take the opportunity while I was here. For those that may or may not be familiar, every year, the last couple of years, El Paso County Citizens Outreach Group, of which I'm a member, has conducted Citizen College. It is an opportunity. It's in October 13th through 18th. There's some of these little things over here on the table. But it's an opportunity to find out how your county works. It's 6:30 to 8:30, Monday through Friday, with a Saturday session. It includes property taxes, budget, land use planning. The DA gives an awesome presentation on how the many things that he does for the county. And I'll tell you, last year, his staff, we did away with the second part of the presentation that night because it was such a good presentation on their part and everybody really loved it. It was awesome. Get a combined tour of the courthouse and a tour of the jail, coroner's office in that area, as well as emergency service, public works. And then we wind up in Colorado Parks, our city, county parks. So October 13th to 18th. So save the date, and registration will be coming out soon. So any questions, I'd be glad to answer.
Any questions for Jim? Okay, thank you very much,
Thank
Jim.
you.
And I move we accept the CAC report.
Very good. We have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second John Graham.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Moving on then to the financial reports. Lisa,
Lisa Corey, I'm the finance manager for the PPRTA. Does everyone have a copy of the financials? Okay. The month I'm reporting is for April. We did come in above budget at $219,027. It was quite a bit lower than it was last month, but still above budget, so that's positive. April this year compared to April last year, we collected less this year, about 325,000 less than we did last year. Any questions?
any questions on the financial report? I think obviously not only PPRTA, but the city, and I'm sure the county as well, is paying close attention to where sales tax is trending. And obviously if you even out the last 2 months, it seems to be sort of a flat trend, I'll say. And the question, of course, is where do we head from here? So I know everybody's going to be watching closely to see where revenue numbers come in, and we'll obviously address the situation if and when anything is necessary. So, okay. The next item is the fiscal year 2025 mid-year budget amendment presentation, and we'll be setting the public hearing for that as well. Do any of the members of the board want presentations on from the member governments, or would a recap and summary be adequate? Okay. Anybody else need a full presentation? Okay. So,
All right, so I'll just recap it then.
very good.
For the carryover revenue above budget for 24, that's about 9 million that we reallocated out. Those funds have to stay in PPRTA 2. We also had additional PPRTA 2 capital funds with the allocations of the capital reserves. And we did not add anything to the sales and use tax or the interest for PPRTA 3.
And the hearing will be set for July
July 9th,
9th. Okay,
here at 1:30.
very good. July 9th here at 1:30. Any questions for Lisa? Okay, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second, Mayor Dixon.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Item 8, 2025 capital maintenance and public transportation contracts. First up is City of Colorado Springs.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and members of the PPRTA Board. Gail Sturdent with the City of Colorado Springs. As Mr. Godfrey mentioned, I have 6 contracts for your consideration today. The first one is for the Galley Road Bridge replacement. This is a PPRTA 2A list project. There is a map included where Galley Road goes over Sand Creek West Fork. This is for construction services changes. This project originally went to construction bid in November 2023. Since that time, and when we did that, we had an estimate of the approximate cost split between Colorado Springs Utilities and the city. Now that we had actual bids and we've gone through some reconciliation, we've had to make some adjustments to the total costs related to that. And then at the same time, Colorado Springs Utilities came in and added some additional work. Also through this extended period of time, as you know, this project, well, you may know this project is under construction right now. We had some delays as we waited for fiber optics to get moved in that area. So we had about a 16-minute extension on the construction time period, which has costs associated with that. And that's really in the cost escalation in some of the unit prices. As a result of both of these things, there's a net change to this particular contract in the amount of $445,984.50, of which that $820,964.20 is PPRT responsibility. And then there's a reduction on the Colorado Springs utility side in the amount of $374,979.70. City's second contract is for the Old Ranch Road Bridge rehabilitation. This is a bridge where it goes over Kettle Creek. There is a map included in your packet. We tend to proceed with engineering to advance rehabilitation for this bridge and to widen it in advance of an upcoming PPRTA 3 project. The city went through an RFP process for that. We had 6 respondents. We had Hardesty Hanover determined to be the best qualified to be able to deliver that project for us. And that is paid for out of bridge maintenance funds. City's third contract is for the Sinton Trail Phase A improvements. This is a PPRTA 2 A-listed program. There is a map included in your package. This would be to provide an extension really from the Holland Park Road to Chestnut and really to take existing asphalt trail pavement and convert it into concrete and also eliminate some hazards and improve accessibility and connectivity in that area. They went through an RFP process and they had 10 bids. It was determined that Elite Surface Infrastructure and the amount of $796,378.04 was the best response for the city. The city's fourth contract is for the Tejon Street Revitalization Project. This project is in construction. We had gone out for construction RFP where we had 3 respondents. Even Pricer was selected, and we did the original contract in October 2024. What we're having to do now is to do some reallocation of some of the funds because some things have happened since we originally did that contract. There is a table provided in your memo that shows the changes by each different funding source from the original contract. So for example, for the grant, we thought there was $1.6 million. Actually, it was just short of that by $108,000. The city parking enterprise is increasing their total to over $2 million, an additional $2 million to bring up almost $4.89 million to the table. The PPRT amount was originally over $2 million, and now it would be set at $500,000. This is actually another area where we're making a correction. In October, we said it was going to come from intersection improvements from RTA 2, and then had the wrong account number. We had on-street bike account number, so making that correction. But 2, we're actually changing this to RTA 3 intersection monies, and no PPRT money has been spent on this construction to date. So I just want to make sure that's clear. And then the Downtown Development Authority, they had agreed to pay for certain elements, and based on the bid price, their portion that was predetermined, their portion is actually just over $555,000. And then the last thing, we know we are experiencing some unforeseen site conditions. We want to put a force account or minor contract revision account in place in the amount of up to $200,000. So we have the ability to respond for those unforeseen conditions once we do that. So long story short, in the end, I'm asking for a change over to for $500,000, but at the same time, want to make sure we're making correction to the accounts and let you know where the balances are there. The city's fifth contract is for pin down durable barriers. These are the barriers that we use when we're doing temporary traffic safety improvements. Oftentimes where we're restricting turn lanes, doing temporary roundabouts, other minor changes that we plan on doing for traffic safety when we're doing typically for a demonstration project in advance of doing hard construction for that. The city needed to go through and do additional sourcing for that. We have paid for previous ones under our Safe Streets and Roads for All grant monies. We determined we want to be able to buy some more funds from this for this particular product. So we went through an RFQ process. We got 8 proposals. It was determined that impact recovery was the best value that was at the best price and met the city's specifications. We do have 80,000 of Safe Streets and Roads for All grant money, and we want to add up to $100,000 of PPRTA funds to be able to, for a total of $180,000 to be able to get those materials as needed for temporary traffic safety improvements. And the last project is contract number 6. It's listed for Mark Shuffle Road and Dublin. It's most specifically for the Dublin Boulevard improvements, and the reason why we have those listed together is Dublin is being treated as the 3rd phase or the last phase of the Mark Shuffle Road project. So it's under one, we're handling it as one project essentially. We have one property acquisition that sits on the south side of Dublin. So between Dublin and the adjacent property that's owned by the Stetson Ridge Metropolitan District. And there is the appraised value for that is around $80,000, and we had about $50,000 worth of damages related to their landscaping and irrigation. So their total amount that has been agreed to has been $129,400, and that is in accordance with the city's real estate manual. I did go to City Council on Monday, presented to the work session, and anticipate that going forward on the consent agenda for the regular session on the 24th. So I'm asking for the board's approval on this item contingent upon final approval from the city council. So those are the city's 6 contracts. I'd appreciate your favorable approval of these contracts, and I'm happy to answer questions.
Any questions for Gail? I'll just comment on the Sinton Trail improvements. The dangerous features on that trail is what makes it fun to ride. So I'll be sorry to see those go, but from an accessibility
You like the
standpoint-
challenge.
The challenge, exactly. Right.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I'll entertain a motion to approve those 6 items from the city.
I move approval of the City of Colorado Springs contracts as presented.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second, Mayor Dixon.
Very good. Any discussion? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thanks, Gail. Let's see, the City of Colorado Springs requests to borrow $2.5 million from PPRTA 3 Capital Reserve account. And maybe I'll preface by saying that we had a conversation about the difference between borrowing and an allocation in a sort of an advanced allocation from future funding, right?
Mhm.
So you might want to expand on that, but
Yeah.
it's a distinction that I think is important.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And Miss Ivy and I, we had a brief discussion about that before the meeting. I do want to say, as we're opening up this discussion, we're going to be asking for an advance allocation as really is laid out in Policy 7. And I'm sure you weren't familiar with Policy 7, so I did include that in your packet. And really what I'm referring to is the last paragraph in Policy 7, where it does say borrowing, but it's really an advanced allocation of capital funding to a jurisdiction or a member government. So that's really what the ask is going to be for. And as Mr. Risley mentioned, it is going to be in the amount of up to $2.5 million. But let me tell you what it is, and I'm going to ask Jared, I brought an exhibit to maybe help explain this, and I know Mr. Godfrey tried to describe it and such, but first I want to talk about what it is and what the need is. But if you can see the exhibit in front of you, Nevada Avenue is towards the right side and it runs north-south with north being up on the exhibit. Brookside is a white line, and today those intersection legs as they come in are offset. And it really creates a very interesting timing problem with signalization and creates some safety and operational issues with that roadway. The city has intended to be able to go through and use our PPRTA intersection improvement programs to come and make some additional changes at this location. But we've been contacted by property owners in this area, and we do know that there is a developer that's actively coming to purchase these properties. And really what our concern is if they go through and do this, that it's really going to make it more challenging for us to be able to make these necessary safety improvements in the future. So what we're asking to do is to be able to advance that project now with the engineering and be able to go through and do the real estate items that are necessary to do this road realignment in the future. So again, I mentioned it's come through. Let's see. So I want to talk about the rest of our budget and why we're asking for this advance allocation now. So if you go through and look at the city's 2025 budget, we had $5 million in the intersection improvement program line item. But that's really all been allocated or obligated to the particular project. So 4.6 of that $5 million was the local match for the US 24 and Peterson Road interchange improvements. And the other $400,000 we've actually already used to spend for other intersection improvement projects. So that account's been tapped. And so we did go and look at our other 25 budget allocations, and really we have four large items that is very difficult to pull monies from, and it's the powers repayment, which we have an agreement for between the Copper Ridge Metro District, the city, the county, and PPRTA. The reimbursement agreement for Nevada Avenue, which was also an advance for PPRTA $3. And then we've got Mark Shuffle and Double in construction. So it was very difficult for us to come up with the monies to really be able to advance this in a meaningful way, to be able to do what we needed to for their residents before having development come in and maybe preclude us from having that opportunity. In accordance with Policy 7, the city does intend to be able to reimburse or basically pay back or allocate the appropriate monies back for this advancement within a year of spend, subject to what's available in our budget, in the budgeting process and cycle, since those generally happen twice a year. So that's a long story short, but that I'm happy to answer additional questions and would appreciate your favorable consideration of this advanced allocation.
Any questions on this item?
Yeah,
Yeah,
question.
Mayor Dixon.
When you say payback, are you thinking in a year, you just basically pay it back, or are you just basically doing a reduced allocation? Reduced
Yes,
allocation?
whatever she says I have to do.
Yeah. Number two, yeah, so essentially, just to summarize what this looks like mechanically, the PPRTA has 10% of its revenue set aside in reserve. 3% of it's its taper reserve, 7% is its sort of, its policy is to have that extra 7%. So this is taking from that reserve, so advancing it kind of to the city from money that exists. And then the city's allocation for next year will be decreased by that same amount.
Yeah, same thing Green Mountain Falls did.
Yes,
our
yes,
project.
we've done it in the past as well.
May I ask a clarifying question? Is it not agreed by the total amount? Isn't agreed by what we spend out of that advancement?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I look at those as one and the same, but if you're not going to use it all, then it
I
would stay
might
in the
not,
bank.
I might
Right.
not use it all as
Right.
fast as I wanted to.
Yeah.
Yes. So anyway, we will work that out, but
Yeah, you use it or it stays in the bank and then it wasn't actually advanced.
right.
Right.
But I just need the ability, like I can't proceed with the project without having enough funds to be able to do certain things in this case. So the intended funds would be to advance the engineering to the point where we could do the property acquisition and proceed with property acquisition.
Any other questions on this one? Okay, it is an approval item, so I would entertain a motion to approve.
Mayor Dixon, I'll move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a
Everybody
motion.
was leaning in. Yeah.
Very good motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, you have an advancement on your annual allowance or whatever you want to call it. All right, item C, El Paso County, Mr. Palmer.
Good afternoon, Josh Palmer, County Engineer. El Paso County has two contracts to bring before you for approval. The first is a design contract to Wilson and Company in the amount of $1,871,666, and this is for the design of the Stapleton Briargate project, which goes from Black Forest to Volma Road. This is building on the PPRTA 2 corridor study, and this is a RTA 3 A-list project. The second contract for your approval today is a purchase order to Mountain View Electric Company. Also a PPRTA 2 project. The county has a soon-to-be advertised construction contract for the Mesa Ridge project. And this goes from Powers to Mark Scheffel. About 2 years ago, we advanced the design and installation of the signal at Mesa Ridge Parkway and Mark Scheffel because it met the warrants for a signal now. So we installed the signal while we completed the design for the rest of the project. Somehow we overlooked actually getting approval to pay Mountain View Electric to supply the electric utility line to the signal. It's already been constructed and we got the invoice from Mountain View Electric. So we are retroactively requesting approval to pay Mountain View Electric the $33,000 required to provide service to that intersection. Those are the two contracts we have, and I'd be willing to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions on those two from the county? Seeing no questions, I'll
Oh.
entertain a motion to approve.
Wait.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So no, you're good. You're good. No worries. So 33,000, and that's basically paying them for the work they already did.
Correct, yes.
Okay, and then moving forward, they're still responsible for that intersection? So is this something we're gonna have to do like every year or?
No, the service has already been provided, the signal's installed and active. We will
Oh, okay.
make it further improvements to the geometry of the intersection, but the signal it's in its permanent configuration, so there won't be any additional work from Mountain View Electric out there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So just the signal, not the electric bill itself. So like
No,
what we pay per
no,
month for
just to
like,
provide
okay.
this, just extend the service to the signal itself.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you.
Very good. Any other questions? Okay. Now I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve item 8B, county projects.
C.
Oh, see.
Great.
Second.
We have a motion and a second.
Yep.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. Thank you very much for that one. Member government and other reports. City of Colorado Springs Transit Services monthly update.
Mr. Chair, it's Gail Sturtevant for the City of Colorado Springs. Lan is unavailable today. I believe she has some staff online if we need to answer additional questions, but I just wanted, on her behalf, to hit a couple highlights of the report that's included in your packet. One of the main things that she asked me to point out to you is the improvement from reliability, which in September of 2024 was at 95%. And as of May of 2025 was up to 99.3%. So they've significantly improved the reliability, and that's been one of the focuses on some of the changes they've done within Mountain Metro's operation.
Question can it be attributed to any one thing or is it a group of things?
It is probably a group of things that collectively her staff has done based on some route programming and some efficiencies that have been in place. I think some of you have met Kevin Teagarden, he's come and presented to the PPRTA board in the past. He's in a different role and he took some different approaches to improve efficiencies. I couldn't tell you specifically what they are, but I know that she's attributed some of the changes and policies they've done have helped with a lot of this reliability. Fashions. The other thing she asked me to point out to you was some of the key features or events that have happened or are going to happen. The first part of May is Colorado Springs Police Department did a SWAT training with Mountain Metro Transit to be able to practice if they had to react to a situation that might take place on a bus. And they also, we just kicked off the 1st of June, the free fare for summer air event. So riding transit anywhere on Mountain Metro's lines, if it's free in the month of June, July, and August. And the last couple things, Bike to Work Day is Wednesday, June 25th. And then we have the Taste of Pikes Peak coming up in July. So those are the key events. I will mention if you're interested in going to the Zero Fare Kickoff, it is tomorrow from 10 to 2, and I believe that's at the Transit Center. So if you have other questions, I can phone a friend.
Any questions on the transit report? Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Next would be the monthly change order and property acquisition report.
Yes, the change order and property acquisition is in your packets. I'm happy to answer questions if there are any.
Any questions for Gail on that one? Okay, seeing none, you're off the hook on that. How about the City of Colorado Springs Powers North reimbursement update?
Yeah, well, great. Yes, we provided an update, and as I promised last month, there's a lot of significant changes for that. A lot of smaller invoices, but stuff we knew that was going to be coming that was allowed to be reimbursed underneath the Powers reimbursement agreement. With this update that's provided, which brings in a total of just 1.65 million to the eligibility. It changes or adds to the PPRTA amount by 1.63 million for a total of $18,529,877.86. And the Colorado Springs Utilities portion is just over $1.2 million. As Rick has reported in previous meetings, we have started making the reimbursement payments to the Copper Ridge Metro Districts for this. And this does not reflect this. This is just really a running total of what is eligible for reimbursement underneath the agreement. Happy to answer other questions.
Any questions on this? Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Brings us then to quarterly reports from member governments.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll be glad to take any questions or forward the questions to the respective member governments if there are any.
Are there any questions on this item? Okay. Moving on then to item 10, the agenda topics for the next meeting. I don't know if there are any specific agenda topics that anyone has or wants to add. Okay, seeing none. PPRTA member announcements. Does anyone have an announcement they would like to make? Mr.
Sure.
Graham. Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
just would like to announce that this coming Monday at 7 o'clock, we'll be dedicating our newest parking lot in Manitou. It's the Dillon parking lot. That'll be a satellite lot located about a quarter of a mile west of our easternmost border. So the intent is for people to be able to park there, that is visitors, and then take a shuttle into downtown Manitou Springs or to the Cog Depot or the Incline. So hopefully that'll reduce the congestion in downtown Manitou and free up some parking for the other visitors who come to town. And for those of us who live there, it'll help us regain some sanity. So this is all part of a long-term project that's involved several parking lots and our PPRTA funds. So we're putting the money to work, and we very much appreciate the support of this organization. Thanks.
Excellent. Very good. Any other reports? I know we have a couple of board members online. I don't know if either of them would like to comment. Guessing not. So unless there's any other business before us, we will stand adjourned. Thank you.